At this point, the cores have been cut for the MD-87 center section of the wing, and I'm at the point now where I'm going to start prepping my templates, my fixture for cutting. These holes in the template are exactly half the distance of whatever your baseboard is going to be. In this case, my base is 3/4 inch plywood, so I want to go half the distance and drill those holes. It's also really important that those holes be drilled straight. So what I was going to do is set the camera up here and let you see how I go about getting those holes straight and true and exactly where they need to be. That way, whenever you take the template off and flip it around, because this template here would have to be flipped over, and instead of the foam setting on this side, the foam is actually going to rest on this side to cut the other side. In this case, I have a left and then a right. And the same thing with the wing. I'm going to have a left airfoil and a right airfoil. And in this case, this is going to cut the right airfoil, and then to cut the left one where the angles go in the opposite way, it's got to be flipped over. So here's how you ensure that you get those templates in the right place. So what I do first is tape off the board with some tape so I can attach my templates to it. Okay, now you want to make sure your tape is down good and flat. Now we want to turn the board over and bring it right to the edge of whatever we're going to be using as a flat edge. In this case, I'm just using a piece of Formica covered shelf board. Now, here's the important part. Is you want this to be flat on the bottom here, but more importantly, I have a center hole, which is the center point. It's lined up with the center point of here. So I want the corner to be right at the center part of that hole. So what I'm going to do is set this down, line it up, and maybe you can see that. I have my hole is at the center of that. Now I'm just going to bring the tape up, and that's going to ensure that this is in the right place. And then come to the back and again pull the tape up, sticking it in place. Now I'm assured that my template is in the right place. So then I can, it's kind of tough to do with one hand, but you got the idea. So now I have my template taped to my board. This one here wasn't all the way down, so then you want to check and make sure that all of the tape is up tight. And now we can take a look, and you can see that hole is right in the middle of the edge corner of my wood. So that way I know that if my foam comes to here, my foam is going to be starting right at that leading edge there. Also, for reference, I have the same thing on the back. See, we didn't even pay attention to this mark, but because I did it right, the center of this is in the middle of that hole. For drilling the holes, it's really important that you drill straight in. So what I do is I bring it to the edge of my flat board. I push down on my plywood, my base, and I'm pushing down on the template, and then I want to drill this hole, and I'm going inside a little bit so that I can watch the gap on my bit, because if it's like this, and obviously I'm not going to be drilling straight in, and if it's like that, I'm not going to be drilling straight in. So I want to keep the bit level with, or parallel with the bottom of the top of the shelf board that I'm using. So what I'll do is just drill it in a little bit and back it out and let the bit clear. Drill it in a little bit more. And then at this point, now I can just go ahead and bring it to the edge and drill my bit all the way in. So now I can back it out and put a screw in it. My hole pattern in my template is the same for this hole, this hole, this hole, this hole, and then the first hole up here. So if you turn this around, then the same pattern is drilled, where this hole is the same as this hole. This hole is exactly the same as one I just drilled, and then of course there's one right here, which I'll do that one after I get a couple of these others in. So now I got this in here. I'm going to go to this end and do exactly the same thing. So now I've got to hold my board because of the weight sticking out of the off the table. But at any rate, try and do this where I can keep it in camera view. Now I'm pushing down on my board so that it is flat on the table, and my template, I want it to be flat on the table. And again, I'm watching what little bit of space I have here to make sure that my bit stays straight whenever I drill it in. So I'm going to be drilling in a little bit, and then back it out and bring it back to the edge and drill it in. And now I can pull it out and put the screw in. And the screw should go straight in. And you want to make sure when you put this back together that you don't cross thread your screws, because you want them to go straight. And that's going to ensure that your template is in the right place. So now you can see my template is flush with the table. So now I'm going to go back here and drill this one exactly the same way. So I'm going to bring it closer to the edge. I'm holding down on the template and down on the board, keeping my drill so that it's parallel with the table, or in this case my piece of shelving board. And I'm going to insert a screw. Again, very important that that screw be straight. And you don't have to really tighten it up, but you do want it a little snug. Okay, so I have no hole there. So I can come back. I have no hole there, so that's good. Now we're going to go ahead and drill back here. Again, holding down the template and the board, holding my drill bit straight. And insert the screw. So now I will finish this off, filling all of the holes with screws, and when I'm done it'll look like this here, where all the holes will have screws in them except for the one up top there, which will be this one and this one. Okay, once we have all the screws in, then we can go ahead and remove the tape. And again, you can check just to be sure, but that should be flush with the top, and it is. Looks really good. Awesome, awesome. Now we got to do the other side, so we're going to attach the other template to the other side. Again, matching up the hole here and the hole here, and making sure that the base of the template is at the base or the top of the piece that I'm using, its flat surface, so that we get the template at the right height. And then of course remember, these screws are actually going right in the center of this board. So I'll go ahead and mount this one, and then we'll take a look. At this point I've gotten the template taped in place for this side, and I'm ready to put the screws in it. You can see here again, the trailing edge of this piece of wood is right in the center of that hole. So there it is on that side, and here's a look at the side I've already mounted. Now that I've inserted all the screws, I've also went ahead and put the foam core inside what would be the left inner panel. And then the center panel is here, and it's just going to slip down in between the two ribs, and we just bring the front of the foam to the front of the board here, which would be like that. Now we should see foam half and half of the hole, And I believe you can see it there, and it's the same thing over there. So there we have it down there and here. So we know the foam is lined up correctly. Here I've got the thermal generator set up, and the proper way to set the thermal generator is, you notice I have a meter here. The set point is exactly between the silver or white and red, and when I throw the switch you can see that my needle is actually sitting there, so therefore I know I have the right heat, and that will actually change as the distance between the two clips get greater. So now what I'm going to do is use my small bow. This is just a piece of 5/32 piano wire with a couple of insulating ends on it and the wire stretched between them. I'm going to cut this in sections for the nacelles. So we hit the generator. I'm going to hold this up and let gravity do the cutting for me. It's going to drop off, and now I'll kill the heat. And there you can see I have one block that's cut flush. So now I'll adjust this out and make another cut. Throw the switch and then let gravity do the rest. You can see the wire is just going to run down along the edge of the wood dowels. Now that's done. Turn off the thermal generator, and you can see that my core has been cut, and it's real nicely cut, in fact. Here I'm going to cut the foam cores for the nacelles. This will be one side, top and bottom, and what I'm doing is actually hot gluing my blocks of foam to my sacrificial foam, and I'll run the code and it'll cut both the top and the bottom half of the nacelles out of these two blocks of foam. So I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the foam blocks in place and then start the machining process. Here's a look at the nacelles after being removed from the table, and that's the way they'll be put together. However, just like the fuselage, the nose section and the tail section, I'm going to be removing this portion of the foam, and then this surface and that surface will actually mate together, and we're actually looking at the front of the nacelle, and then the rear tapers back just a little bit more. And this is actually looking at the bottom side, and the way we know this is the bottom side is because of the step here. This here is thicker than the one on that side. So you can see that one there is only 1/4 of an inch, and this one here is 1/2 an inch, which part of that will be removed in order to hide the piece of plywood that's going to connect the two engine nacelles together. Okay, here's a look at the final outside cut on the nacelles for the MD-87 project. I'm going to show you the fixture that I've got set up and why this is going to work. First off, I just have the wire elevated on either side, and I have the power wires going to the wire from the thermal generator, and I also have a couple of clamps up here to keep my wire from riding on down the aluminum rails. Basically, this is just a trapeze in order to hold the wire up at the right height, and you can see I've just used some pieces of wood to do that, nothing fancy. The other thing, now before I took my pieces off of the CNC machine, I changed and put a flat bit in the spindle, and I used a 3/4 inch flat bit to plane off the top here. And what that did was it ensured that whenever I turn this over and lay it down, this is actually flat to the machining that was done on the inside of the nacelle, meaning this is square and on this plane all the way around, because I machined this side, the back, and of course that was on the other side. So now all I have to do is turn this upside down and push it through, and it's actually going to cut off the excess that needs to be removed, which is this line right here. So here we go. We're just going to try to feed this through nice and smooth. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and take the second one and put it right behind it and just keep on going. The idea is to be really smooth here. The way I figured, if the first one's messed up, the second one might as well be. So now we're going to get into the second one. Again, nice and smooth, slow. That's what I'm after. Just want to be smooth here. And you'll probably hear that drop. Listen for the drop. Okay. Now here's a look at what we've just cut off. So now you can see we have just a little bit of flashing on the inside. Nothing around there. Just a touch right here. And then we'll look at the other one. Should be exactly the same. Here's a look on the inside. Now, let me go ahead and take those out of here and we'll see what it looks like. Here I'm just cutting off the ends. And this will give me access. After removing all the excess foam from the nacelles, this is what we're left with. I've already taped them together. But you can see here I have a nice fit, and this is right off the machine, so this is no sanding been done yet, and that's how it looks.